2008 general elections saw many young candidates from both sides of the divide. Some of them won and went on to serve as members of parliament and state assembly persons. Malaysia Kini TV spoke to these young politicians about their experience of serving the Rakyat for the past 5 years. In this week's edition, we speak to Hannah Yeoh, the Selangor State Assembly person for Subang Jaya.
Initially, yes, at the very beginning, because we lack experience when we first came in. But I think the initial years, trying to convince the voters and also the residents that, despite the lack of experience, I am willing to work hard and make up for the lack of experience. I think that the initial 1 or 2 years, those years were a bit difficult, but I think now after working for a full term and learning the procedures and how to deal with government agencies, I feel that it is a lot better now. Things have settled down more for us, but the challenges of being a young woman in politics still there, because if I compare how I'm being treated by some of the constituents as compared to Lau Wing San. I always exchange notes with YB Lau Wing San, and he seems to think that we do face some difficult situations simply because people tend to bully us because we are a young woman in politics. So I think there are good points to that. When we are young, we have a lot of energy, and also I feel that women politicians generally are better listeners and they have more patience when dealing with constituents. So that's a plus point. So there are advantages and disadvantages for us, but generally we are coping okay.
I am 29. As you have rightly pointed out, I have just been elected the State Assemblyman for Subang Jaya. I am newly married. I got married in January this year to a very wonderful man, and I live in Subang Jaya. I come from a family of four siblings, and I'm the eldest. My father is a businessman, my mom is a housewife. I have never been involved in politics before this, so that's a bit of my background. I was also a former lawyer. I did my Bachelor of Laws from University of Tasmania in Australia, and after I graduated, I practiced for about 3 years in PJ.
I think for young women in politics, people are very critical about our dressing. Yeah, our dressing. When you put on a little bit of weight, like childbirth and all that, people generally make comments. So when they look at you, the first thing they comment is on your physical appearance first. So sometimes some of these comments can be a bit harsh and can be a bit, how do I say it? It can upset you quite a bit, but you must learn to get used to it. I deal a lot with Majlis Perbandaran Subang Jaya and of course a few state agencies. But generally, I think we have learned a lot from how Tan Sri Khalid administers the state, and he gives a lot of priority to civil servants and their opinion, and I think that's a good point. I'm trying to learn from that as well, not to disregard civil servants because they have been there for quite some time, and sometimes what they say about certain situations, their opinion really makes sense. But I think when we come in with a fresh perspective on what the people want, I think we must learn to strike a balance. I have learned in the last 5 years that not all requests or demands of the people are reasonable, and not everything that the civil servants do are wrong. So finding that balance, and I find that there are good civil servants around, like in MPSJ, for example, the engineering department. The engineers are very pleasant to work with, and they are very efficient. They are on BlackBerry, they reply emails late at night. There are people who really work hard for the things they do. My first pregnancy was a lot easier because it was the first time, and the family generally pampers you quite a bit because it's a first experience for everybody. But and also the first pregnancy, I have a lot of time to rest when I go home late at night. the time that I have is for myself. So I can write emails, I can do whatever I want at night. That is my space. But now with the second pregnancy, I have my first child that I need to look after. So when I get home late at night, I have to attend to her, put her in bed first. By the time I put her in bed, sometimes I fall asleep myself, and I don't have time to attend to emails. So emails can pile up. So these are some of the challenges that I find now during my second pregnancy. So I think the challenge will come when I deliver, and I have to manage both together, one a newborn and one still a toddler. But I think a lot of young working mothers go through the same experience. Again, always finding that challenge, finding that balance is very challenging. I suspect that election might be called when I'm on confinement. So I have already prepared myself for that mentally, physically. The only person who's not so pleased is my mother, because generally they don't like the idea of working during confinement. But I will take some rest for the initial at least 10 days, because mine will be a cesarean, and then after that I have already worked out a plan in the event that I have to come out during confinement. How would I split my time, what kind of appearance I'll make, what kind of timetable I will need to juggle with. So the good thing is I have a lot of good volunteers around in Subang Jaya. People have already volunteered their time to help me out, and I have a good team of assistants who will help me campaign. I still think that this time around it will be a lot easier compared to 2008, because 2008, that was really, really difficult for us, building a team, from nothing. Now will be a lot better. Yeah. We won with a big majority in Subang Jaya, and I think what I needed to do in the initial few years were to convince them that their vote for me will not go to waste. So it must not just be a protest vote against Barisan Nasional, but they must feel that they have made a right decision by voting me in. And that's why we work very hard to always be there for them, so that they never feel deprived of a state assembly person. Again, in politics, I think you cannot please everybody. So if you ask people, definitely some will say you have done a good job. We have heard that, but some will also say that you could have done better. And of course, there are some supporters for our opponent here who will never be satisfied with anything you do. So I just have to make sure I do my best, deliver whatever I feel I need to deliver. What I've promised, I must deliver that. And then I leave it to the people again to decide whether they still want me to serve or not. In Subang Jaya, the constituents are very well informed. They read news and all that. And I think generally people expect a lot more from the local council. The services of the local council, they feel that must improve more. But with the state government, I think people are generally happy with the how Tan Sri Khalid has administered this state government. There's no corruption. We have reserve, cash reserve, and it is generally a cleaner and more transparent state government. So I think Subang Jaya, people will still give Pakatan Rakyat a chance in the coming election. Yeah. I think it's the lack of political education and also the confusion caused. You see, the former administration, the state assemblyman was also made a councillor. Okay, but so they are used to going to the state assemblyman for council issues last time. But when we came in, Tan Sri Khalid stopped that. So assemblymen are no longer councillors. So people are not used to it. If I come to you, I've been to the former Adun, and the former Adun would help me attend to dirty drains. They expect for me to do the same. That's why for me, I really believe we need to have local government elections, and for as long as I'm an elected rep, I will continue to fight for local government elections, because I feel that the people must have a direct say in the election or appointment of their councillors. Apart from a change of government, I feel that the people must have a change of mindset on three things. One, race-based politics. I think we need to move away from that. And I think the people must also start voting in people not because of race. I think that's important, number one. Secondly is on corruption. You see, I believe that corruption will not happen if you do not have feeding hands. As long as you have people who are willing to feed the government servants, the politicians, corruption will always be there. And people have, a lot of Malaysians have accepted that as a culture, you know. It is the Malaysian culture, it's a Malaysian way of thinking. And I think it's time for us to break that. Thirdly, I think the Malaysians in general must stop thinking about goodies. You know, if I vote for this person, what can this person give me? Because as long as you have that right, we will not grow as a society. We will always be looking to the government for goodies, you know, and it's so easy to dish out goodies. You don't need a brilliant prime minister or chief minister to do that. As long as taxpayers pay you tax, you have money, you just find ways to channel back the money to the people. So there's not a lot of policy involved, and I think we need to see more of that, more policies instead of just dishing out goodies. I think I've worked very hard in the last 5 years for the people in Subang Jaya. Definitely, if I look back, there could be things that I could improve on, and there are certain things that I would like to see completed before the end of my term, but I could not because I didn't have the cooperation, or I didn't have the money needed to complete it. Number one, I really wanted to see a multi-story parking bill in SS15 because of all the colleges there, lack of car park. But you know, MPSJ keeps saying that they don't have the money and there is delay in getting the lease for the land. So that one I know for sure before the next election it can never be completed. So I want another term to see that as a reality for the people of Subang Jaya. And the second thing that I really wanted to do was to get rid of the traffic light SS19 along Persiaran Tujuan, because we have two main roads in Subang Jaya, Persiaran Kewajipan and Persiaran Tujuan, and that traffic light causes a lot of traffic jam. So now I've written to the state for money to see whether we can build either a flyover or an underpass to solve that problem. So I want to improve the quality of life for the people, because this is where I live and this is where I grew up. So these are some of the major things that I want to see done in the next few years, if given another chance. I have personally learned a lot from these 5 years. It has made me a stronger person. But if you ask me to assess my own performance, I think that really has to be done by the people in the next election. So it really depends on what they feel my accomplishment is. There's no point I assess myself because it's really irrelevant. For a politician, it's always based on what the people want and whether or not the people feel that you deserve a second chance. So I think I will leave that to the people to decide in the coming elections. If they are satisfied and they want me to continue to serve, you know, they will vote for me again. But if not, I'm also fine with it. You know, I think we must never outstay our time in politics, you know, and if people don't want, then you just leave it to the next candidate to take over with fresh ideas so that the people will benefit. I think that's what politicians must get used to, and also the people. When I joined politics, I really have only two objectives. One is to see race-based politics come to an end in Malaysia. And the second is to see an end to corruption in this country. So everything that we do, no matter how small, those efforts must gear towards eradicating those two items. And that's what I want to see, not just for Subang Jaya, but at the national level, that we will start seeing everybody as a Malaysian first, and not be always suspicious or hostile towards one another because of the prejudice, because of what we read in mainstream media. I really want to see that come to an end, because I think race-based politics are very damaging for national unity. There's no point if we just make cosmetic changes, from outside we talk about it, but back at home we say a different thing. And I think that has to happen in every home in this country, not just what you say in speeches, but over dinner tables, over meals. There must be that sincere love for one another, because we are Malaysian first. And definitely corruption. I think with any government, you will see corruption, but I think what we need to ensure is that if Pakatan Rakyat takes over, we have to make sure that if anyone is found to be corrupt, stern action must be taken immediately, and we must make sure that the person faces the music for being corrupt. And I think I want to see reform in some of these institutions, like the Election Commission, the judiciary, the police. I think people want to be able to trust these institutions again. Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for believing in me and for giving me the opportunity to serve all of you. Even though I was only 29 years old, they knew very well at that time that I didn't have the experience in politics, and yet they gave me a chance. I hope I have not disappointed them. For those I have disappointed, I apologize, I'm sorry. But if given another chance, I want to continue to strive to improve the lifestyle of Malaysians, but I can't do that by myself. And we need to make sure that we elect back a clean state government, and also, if possible, we want to see a change in the federal level, so that some of the challenges I mentioned to you about not getting things done because there's lack of cooperation with agencies and all that, those things can be overcome. And for the Malaysians who are facing these coming general elections, don't be disheartened by whatever you read before, and don't be afraid to make change, because the result will be worth it. During renovation period, right, it's never pleasant. It's always very inconvenient, dirty and messy. But once you get past that stage, we have nothing to lose. And all we can have after the post 13, if we don't shrink back, is a greater nation. And I think that's what democracy is all about. We need to develop that over the years, and we must become better as a nation, must get used to changing government so that the people will benefit. So I think Malaysians must be courageous enough to make that change in the coming election. We have changed a few states, and those states, the people in those states have benefited. So we need to be more bold come this general election.
With the 13th general elections around the corner, Hannah Yeoh is gearing up to serve the Rakyat for another term. Until the next edition, this is Cheryl Neto signing off from Malaysia Kini TV, and thank you for watching.